Hello everybody, and this is Chaos with KLC Sports Productions bringing you another viewer cast. We are going to be looking at another PvT. Let's go ahead and get right into this. Now, Brian sent me probably the most awesome, lengthy, descriptive email that I've ever seen out of a viewer cast. So Brian, thank you. Greatly appreciated. Now, PvT is one of those weird matchups that information is everything. Without the proper scouting information, you never know what you're going to be up against, and with not having that information, it could mean a very, very disastrous outcome, as we will see here shortly. So, early game, I think you're overall pretty okay with your build and style. I didn't see a whole lot, especially for a Bronze League player. I didn't see a whole lot in there that I said, I question that. There are a couple things that you might want to tweak as far as which timings and things that go down. Now, one thing I do want to make note, whenever you come in with your probe, if you come in with a 9 pylon, you have to stick around for a little bit longer than just poke in, check the gases, and leave. Because we'll see if we go on to everyone that he's actually just now planting down his gas, and you've completely missed it. And that is going to be a really good indicator of what options does he have. So just keep that in mind. Going to be getting down your gateway on a good time. Your that and that. Now, one thing I suggest, I don't know. Let's see. I don't want to go back just because it'll take forever. But generally what I'll do is I'll put down... You put down the gateway, which is fine, in the simulator. But before putting down the pylon, make sure that you're always, pumping out probes. Make sure that there's as little time that your Nexus is not building probes, like here, as possible. Because you want to always continually build probes all the time until you're saturated on 2 bases. And then you start to get into when do I stop making probes and yada yada. But we're more so focused on the early game. Now, going for the really early second gateway, what are you trying to accomplish? Are you trying to be aggressive, poke in, get a little bit more scouting information? What are you trying to do? Whenever you plant down a building, ask yourself, one, am I going to use this at the exact time that it finishes, or is it just going to sit around for a while until I, quote, need it? If it's just going to be sitting around, why waste the money? Why not get this zealot out a lot quicker? Why not build a stalker instead? Why not start thinking about a nexus? These are the kind of questions you need to ask yourself. So, overall, doing pretty good on pro production, getting our things up. Still a little bit at a down point because you really haven't scouted a whole lot. Had you kept your probe in there a little bit longer, you might have had a better indication of what was going on. So you're going to be getting your zealot out. There's another stalker's on its way. Personally, what I like to do is I like to go for the robo as quickly as possible. Usually try and get it down sometime around the 5:15 mark. That gives you the opportunity to get an observer out and over into your opponent's base by the time that all of his structures are done building. This will be a great indication of what you're going to be up against. So just keep those type of things in mind. I believe you start thinking about... Okay, so you plant down the forge. Now, at this point in the game, putting down the forge is not a bad idea, but at the same time, you have to ask yourself, if I don't have 4 extra units right now, am I going to be able to hold off an early push? The forge is one of those things that you kind of have to judge based on what your opponent's doing, of when it should go down. Personally, I like to put it down right after I've gotten up my infrastructure for building units. So 3 gateways and a robo with an expand, or maybe I'm playing a little bit more passively and just have the 3 gates in the robo. Basically what you want to do is you want to not limit yourself to the amount of units that you can produce at any given point in time, because always go with the assumption that your opponent is doing something super aggressive or super greedy. And okay, maybe not super greedy, but just assume that they're doing something aggressive, and will I lose in the next 2 minutes? Always be asking yourself, where's my opponent at? What is he thinking? Because the better you get at predicting what your opponent's going to think about doing, the more options that you have as far as coming up with a defense. So you're going to continue building on some units, boosting out the probes, getting up your pylons. I don't think you've been pylon blocked yet, which is awesome. Personally, at this point, I would say now is when you need to start thinking about expanding, not getting your upgrades. Had you skipped the forge and expanded, you could already have your robotics bay down, or your robotics facility, as well as your extra gate for your production. So just things to think about. So you move down here, looking to expand. I do want to make a quick comment about the number of probes that you have on your main. Now, generally speaking, yes, there's this wonderful 20 out of 24 marker, but generally speaking, optimum saturation is around 16, 17, 18 probes. No more. Once you hit that, if you're not thinking about expanding, you're thinking about building units and going and attacking. Because if you're not gaining anything by making more probes, that's just money spent where it could be spent elsewhere, like getting up an expansion and then building probes. So things to consider and think about whenever you're... Always ask yourself, why are you doing something? Why are you building probes? Why are you... once you hit a point, you can see some of these probes just keep going back and forth, trying to find things. Like, it's just not efficient. So you choose to go and get your robotics facility, and you push out, which is fine. We'll speed it up a little bit, because you basically come over here, you expand, you push out, and you don't see anything. You have no idea what your opponent's doing. I mean, you've only seen what that one thing that you saw here. Now, if you had sent a single zealot up here, you would at least have an idea that he's got a single tank and a handful of units. That at least gives you an indication of where his army's at. Because you always have to ask yourself, where am I at compared to my opponent? What is he thinking? What is he doing? And without having the observer over there is kind of a big deal. So I'm going to go through this a little bit faster because I think there's a turning point. Okay, you did ask a question of when does the Twilight Council go down. Now, my rule of thumb is if I'm not going for a really early charge, whenever my +1 armor, attack, whatever, is halfway done, that is when I should be putting down my Twilight Council, because that's the point at which the Twilight Council will finish as the upgrade is finishing, which means you can go straight into the next upgrade. So that's kind of the general timing for the Twilight Council. Let's see, other than that, double robo. I personally wouldn't have gotten the second robo until after I'd gotten the robotics bay, because the bay, getting out area effect units, Colossus, Templar, is going to be very crucial in the PvT matchup, just because the Marine Marauder Ball just absolutely blows against gateway units. Even with a handful of Immortals thrown in there, it's not enough. You gotta get something that does splash damage. I mean, as you can see, he's got a tank out there, so he's gonna also have splash damage to his disposal as well. Now, one thing I do want to make comment of is your units are just sitting here, but let's think about this logically now. If he comes in and attacks directly with his army, just one-on-one up the ramp, what are the Zealots going to do? The Zealots are going to run into all of these Stalkers, and the only Zealots that are going to actually be able to do anything are these three here. Maybe this one. But these three Zealots are going to effectively do nothing, and probably die before they actually do any damage. So you definitely want to get your units kind of in order and make sure that you get the most bang for your buck. So yeah, at this point he's gonna more or less come in here and just stomp on you, because you don't really have any Colossus out, and he's got vision as a function of the medevacs. So we'll speed it up a little until we get into this engagement. Now, let's see how he chooses to engage this. Okay. So, with this concave, I would say you've got a pretty decent shot. The only thing that you have going against you is these 3 tanks that are just chilling out over here that are definitely going to make your day a living nightmare. So, you focus down. Yeah, you took your entire army to focus down those tanks. While that is the right idea, what you should do, you can select all of one type of unit by hitting Control and clicking. As you can see, I've selected all the Immortals. What you should have done is attack with everything, do a shift click on the Stalkers, and have them focus down the tanks. While the Immortals do more damage to tanks, they're going to be way more better off against these this heavy Marauder force than they are just those tanks alone. And having them hit more units than just... Because if all of these units attack this one tank right now, yes, it will die, but everybody's shot is going to be wasted overkilling this unit. So you want to make sure that you're attacking efficiently. And that's kind of why having the Colossus in here is so crucial, because they do multiple, damage to multiple units instead of just one. So yeah, so now that you've cleaned everything out, you're gonna back off and actually lose a majority of your Arnets just from backing off. And then he's just gonna more or less walk in here and have a nice day. So you went and got an Oracle and DTs. I guess, why didn't you warp in some DTs? That might have been at least a little bit more effective. He would have had to known to expand to scan and get rid of them, but that might have been another option for you. But yeah, I think overall your playstyle is okay. You just need to make sure getting these Colossus out a lot earlier is going to be very, very crucial to your PvT matchup, because PvT is one of those matchups where you definitely need the splash damage, because otherwise you just flat out lose to face-to-face engagements. So overall, I think you're on the right path to improving. You're asking a lot of the right questions as far as when to plant things down. So I think you're definitely moving along in the right direction. Feel free to leave any comments down below, questions, concerns, anything that I might have forgotten from the email. I tried to encompass all of the questions, but I think I might have missed a few. So yeah, feel free to let me know. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. For everybody else who's watching, I hope you guys enjoyed and learned from a little bit from Brian's mistakes and kind of his play style. If you would like to send me one of your own replays, feel free to shoot me an email to the email in the description. I'd be more than willing to take a look at your replay, do a viewer cast of it, and get that out to you as quickly as possible. Also, feel free to check out some of my other content, Bronze Masters League series, as well as some of my casts of some recent Clan Wars. Always a lot of fun doing a little bit more casting type events. So yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed. Feel free to subscribe, like, share with your friends, and I will see you all in the next game.